Hello and welcome to the test episode of Reroll. I'm Angus Morrison and this show is going to be primarily review based, as is pretty standard, but I'm going to be taking a look at new games a week after their release. Now, press copies of games are traditionally shipped to reviewers a few days before they're available to the public, so consumers have these reviews available to base their choices on. Recently though, we've been seeing an increase in the number of, for example, massive launch day patches, DLC available at launch, and the kind of events, be they bugs or successes, that only unfold within a large community of actual players. Now, I feel that the standard coverage, while obviously very important, doesn't quite offer the full picture now that the development doesn't just end at release. My aim with these videos will be to provide that coverage once the game's had some chance to find its feet, and also analyse some of the feedback it's received in the wider press, whether I've found that to be overly harsh, too generous, or spot on, and the reasoning behind my opinion. As a wise man once said, pre-ordering games is dumb. The games I'll be reviewing will all be on PC, though I'm not intending to go into platform specifics in too much detail. If you'd like to know more about that side of things, I'd highly recommend Total Biscuit's WTF series, and I'll include a link to that, along with anything else I reference during the show, in the description down below. This video I'll be reviewing Far Cry 3, and before anyone states the obvious, I'm well aware that it was released some time ago now. It was November 29th, I believe. This video is purely to kind of pitch my concept, as it were, dust the cobwebs off my editing skills before I begin in earnest, and as a side note, I apologise for the occasional bursts of static you might be hearing. My normal recording equipment is elsewhere. The first actual review will be Devil May Cry, I reckon, which is released for PC on January 25th. January is always pretty devoid of releases, but things heat up towards the end of the month. Like, favourite and subscribe if you like what you see, and any comments you care to leave would be much appreciated, be they praise, criticism, or simply adhering to internet tradition by calling me a faggot and going about your business. So, Far Cry 3. Far Cry 3 is an open-world FPS RPG light concoction, released on 29th November 2012, published by Ubisoft and developed in-house by Ubisoft Montreal. Far Cry 3's storytelling has received very wide coverage, which tends to lean towards the negative. IGN, the most positive, claimed that Jason, the main character's evolution, sells Far Cry 3. Edge magazine said that Far Cry 3's main missions were nothing special in themselves, while PC Gamer dubbed them a guided tour of all the clumsiest ways to mash story and video games together until both of them break. I'm of a slightly different opinion, and I'm using the game's introduction here to demonstrate what I think is half a masterclass in storytelling. The first half. Then things get weird. Weirdness in Far Cry 3 is very different from insanity, of course. Insanity isn't a wildly understated theme. You've got Lewis Carroll quotes and Rorschach blots covering the loading screens, and then you've got this phenomenally mental performance of the cover villain Vaas, played by Michael Mando, and it's used to wonderful effect until you get to about halfway through and find this increasingly unsubtle parade of characters marched in front of you. It's just like, yep, that one's mad. Oh, that one's mad too. Yes, Ubisoft, we get it. Ubisoft, what are you doing? Ubisoft, stop!
Shut the fuck up!
The actors absolutely carry the story. All the performances are motion captured, and the animation team have done just an incredible job. If you study Vaas here, while he's talking, look at his face, the eyes, the eyebrows, his hand motions, now tiny idiosyncrasies that have been realised in-game. It's spectacular, and it's these one-on-ones that serve to bring you back to the early missions. Because the start is very promising. Right from the beginning there's this brutal contrast between the vacuous, hedonistic holiday making and the next instant's maniacal tirade in captivity. You, as Jason Brody, are panicking convincingly about the situation. Your army-trained brother kills a man, you want to back out and hide. All your friends, all you know in life is gone. It feels like the start of a very promising human interest story. A couple of hours later, and I'll try not to spoil anything beyond the introduction, you're embroiled in what I can only describe as a quasi-magical, drug-induced gun romp. In a bid to get their themes across, Ubisoft really have shoved insanity in your face until it becomes weird. It's needlessly ham-fisted in its treatment of a topic that was already quite apparent. Had they let the human interest elements grow naturally, had we been able to see Jason evolve at a semi-normal pace, I think the story could have been magnificent. Ubisoft have also come under fire for what might appear to be colonialist sentiment. You, the rich white American, are rapidly installed as the chosen champion of the natives' island home, which you promptly proceed to level. Jeffrey Yohalam, and I apologise if I'm pronouncing that wrong, the lead writer on Far Cry 3, has claimed in an interview with Edge that this was in fact subversive satire, mocking similar trends in modern gaming. It doesn't feel that way, Jeffrey. Once again, the unsubtle bombast of proceedings has simply obliterated any point that could have been made. If you have to point out your subversive commentary before people notice it, you really need to go back to the drawing board. So, all in all, a promising story hamstrung by a hefty dose of weird. Now I'm going to skip forward a little here to attempt some points on actual gameplay.
We're gonna find him, we're gonna free the others, and then we're going home.
Oh no, I'm not. A wild QuickTime event appeared. During the campaign missions, they are dire. Utterly unforgivable. The cinematics stretch on for so long that the devs clearly had to do something to necessitate your presence, and this was the best they could come up with. I can almost forgive them in these kind of scenes. This scene stirred some genuine emotion, but for some unknowable reason, every major confrontation in the game, without exception, is handled via the medium of QuickTime event. To dispatch Vaas, the face of Far Cry 3 since its announcement at E3 2011, with nothing more than a scripted button press, is the definition of insanity.
Please let them be alive.
However, they are a lesser evil in certain scenarios. When they are kept short and sharp, knee-jerk reactions to panic-inducing events, a little bit of button mashing is quite enjoyable, and once again showcases Far Cry's mastery over animation. To lay criticism on the story is not to detract from the masterpiece that is the game's setting. Not a single critic is in disagreement on this count. The Rook Islands offer vast swathes of jungle, grassland and beach on which to roam freely, revelling in the simple joy of exploration. Just look at the colour of the place. Vicious greens, serene blues, and, as you'll be seeing shortly, copious red. The journeys through the islands are often more exciting than their ultimate goal, and Total Biscuit was absolutely right in pointing out that the fast travel available is in no way beneficial. You just miss out on so much offered by the setting. If that weren't enough, hundreds of collectibles exist to add incentive to casual wanders through the forest, many of which are simply flavour items possessing no in-game functionality. The purity of it is refreshing. I feel the maps containing the location of every collectible in the game detract from this somewhat, though as they're an optional purchase, I don't have much ground to complain. The next clip here will be me taking out one of the many pirate outposts that dot the map. These really are the stock in trade of Far Cry's gameplay. You take them to increase the Rakyat natives' hold over the island, you're sent after them during missions. They're a big part, and I think it'll serve nicely to demonstrate some of the stealth and gunplay on offer in the game. You see here I'm currently using an assault rifle, a recurve bow, a silenced 50 caliber sniper rifle, which I didn't even think was possible, correct me if I'm wrong, and an LMG. In about 5 minutes, we've gone from Jason announcing that he's never fired a gun before to being some kind of tropical master at arms. This has been criticised by most reviewers, and the lead writer has once again stepped in to claim something like, Jason's not skilled at shooting, but the player is because of their experience in other FPSs. Whatever. I'm not going to be particularly unforgiving on this point. I think it's very nice that they've actually paid lip service to his inexperience. It does help with the character development. Granted, it is just lip service, so they waste no time in sweeping that little blip under the rug, and it's not helped by the fact that gunplay is very easy, even on the harder difficulties. The guns sound great, and they do feel weighty, but the recoil's just too forgiving. When sniping, you don't have to account for bullet drop, you barely have to lead enemies, and the scope steady feature is very generous. It's all a bit point click, point click. IGN in particular has lauded the enormous number of ways there are to attack, and while they're technically correct, I mean, there are an enormous number of solutions to the island's excess of pirates, shall we say. You could distract the guards and sneak in for knife kills, run in with a flamethrower and a shotgun, assault rifles and explosives. The arsenal's huge. But really, because of the ease of the gunplay, once you've found a solution that works for you, there's not really any incentive to shake things up apart from for the sake of your own amusement. The game really kind of pushes you towards stealth too. There are enormous XP bonuses, as you'll see at the end of this clip, for taking out an outpost undetected, and your health drops like a stone. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it feels like the difficulty is spread unevenly, falling too lightly on gunfire and too heavily on health management. Combat is ultimately enjoyable though, and I won't fault Ubisoft for giving you the freedom to play as you desire. The recurve bow is actually a particular highlight. It's silent and it hits very hard, so stealth based again, but it's slow to fire and the arrows drop naturally. Kills with the bow take a little more skill and are very satisfying. And just look at the texture work on it. At this point I'm going to talk a little bit about the side quests on Rook Island, and there are an awful lot of them. The major sets include Wanted Dead quests, Path of the Hunter, Supply Drop, which equates to Time Trial, and the peculiar addition of Island Racing Leagues. While they certainly provide an antidote for those rare occasions when treks through the jungle begin to grate, the limited number of archetypes makes completing a large number of these feel rather inorganic and forced in this big natural playground. In small doses, though, they are definitely a pleasant break from routine. Wanted quests require you to eliminate a pirate captain with a knife kill, for example, and the challenge lies in navigating environmental and pirate-based challenges to get close enough. Variation stems from his guards, the inclusion of heavies or snipers demanding a slightly more cautious approach than the standard lackeys. Right now I'm doing a Path of the Hunter quest, requiring a certain number of animal kills with a specified weapon. These really allow Far Cry 3 to show off its environment some more. Stalking prey through light dappled forest or along beaches has a certain primal satisfaction to it, although mowing down fawns with an LMG does feel a little unsportsmanlike. This is probably the best place to demonstrate Far Cry's RPG-light crafting system. Plants in 5 different colours are found throughout the world and can be combined in various quantities to make syringes, stat or health boosting shots with various helpful effects. Honestly, I quite like it. The plants aren't so rare as to distract from the business at hand, even boasting a somewhat patronising glow. And effects like Hunter's Instinct, demonstrated here, can be quite a relief if whatever creature you need to eviscerate has decided to wander off in hopes of a better life. The skins from your victims are used in what I reckon is best described as an ambitious quest to craft the biggest non-vegetarian sack known to man. TB and Edge are both right in saying that this side of the crafting system is very contrived. The skins involved in producing your new, more kick-ass wallet are entirely arbitrary, but you know what? It doesn't matter. Hunting is damn fun in its own right. So, the lowest pre-release score I've seen for Far Cry 3 has been an 8 from Edge magazine. The press are essentially in agreement. Far Cry 3 is a brilliantly realised open-world game apart from its story. The anomaly is IGN, which tried to advise players to come for Far Cry 3's incredible campaign. Presumably they played the first 10 minutes and got distracted by something shiny. Early updates have been relatively small, the most noticeable being a fix to the UI to ensure that it looked half normal at different resolutions, and to declutter the screen by giving you more power over various notifications. So I'm going to throw my lot in with popular opinion and declare Far Cry 3 a beautiful, incredibly strong, free-roaming FPS. Just don't get clever with your meta commentary. This has been the test episode of Reroll, and the first episode will be on Devil May Cry, which is released for PC on January 25th. Suppress those primal pre-ordering urges and let Reroll be your week 1 guide. Thank you for watching. God, I love dynamic fire.